One mistake for every attacker in Rainbow Six Siege as of year 10 season 1. I don't like long intros. All I ask is if you enjoy the video, hit the like button and make sure you sub since we're trying to hit 250k subs. And let's jump straight into this video. Now let's start off with Rauora. I want to place a dom panel on this doorway as well as this doorway over here. And a mistake that people will make with this operator is if they want to place it on this doorway, for example, they're going to try and get close enough for it to lock on. I mean, that icon implies where your dom panel is going to be shot. Same with this closet door here as well. If I'm standing out here, it's going to try and deploy the dom panel on this single door, which I don't really want it to be placed. Well, something which some people don't realize is if you actually ADS with this gadget, it will bypass the very first available doorway and lock on to the next one. So as you can see, if I shoot it right now, un-ADS'd, it will deploy it on this doorway. And now when I ADS, I'm going to shoot it and it's going to block off trophy. Same case for this closet door as well. It's currently locked on to this exterior doorway. And now we're going to ADS, shoot, and it's going to block off the closet door. So don't make this mistake with Rauora, thinking that you have to fully peek through this doorway or get past a certain part of this doorway to then lock onto these other ones. All you have to do is ADS if you want to go far and un-ADS if you want to go close. Don't make this mistake and make sure you tell this one to your friends. Okay, so a mistake you can make with Zofia is not utilizing the lines which are on your screen when you're using her gadget. So if I was going to open this barricade in front of me, obviously that sort of top center dot with the circle around it is going to be the one I'm using because I'm on level with it and it's going to be right in front of me. But what if I wanted to shoot this window, let's say as a castle barricade I need to clear in it or whatever reason, what if I want to shoot that? Well, we have these lines on our screen. The thinnest one is at the bottom and then it gets gradually thicker until we get to a circle at the top. So what I want to do here is I want to line up the bottom line with the base of this wall. So as you can see, we have this, we have the bottom of the building here. I want to line this up, and this works even if you're standing far back. So if I'm quite close up, it's going to be pretty obvious where I'm going to aim with my gadget. I'm just going to use that top dot because, I mean, you can see where that's going to go if we're that close. But if we're quite far, and this helps you use Zofia at distance as well, we're just going to use this little trick. So that bottom line right now is currently lined up with the bottom of that wall. So we're going to go as far back as possible. We're still lined up with the bottom. And let's see what happens when we take this shot. We're going to shoot. It's going to travel. And there you go. We just opened that window with Zofia. So these guidelines are very useful at using Zofia at range. Again, let's use an example of this window over here. That's why I wanted to come to Stadium, because there's quite a lot of space for me to walk back to show you the distance. So right here, I'd say here is the bottom. I know you can go under the map, but we're not going to count that. We kind of want it to be the flat land at the bottom. So we're aiming. We've got ourselves lined up at the bottom here. Micro adjust it a tiny bit. So as you can see, our top bit is pointing over the top of the building. But thanks to this bottom bit, which we have lined up with the bottom, we should be able to shoot here. And there we go. The window is now open. Right, this is one of the biggest mistakes with Ying, but it's also one of the coolest tricks in the game, in my opinion. So over here, we have the bomb site, we have a Jaeger, and we have 3 ADSs. Now, if we're going for a collapse on this bomb site, pretty obvious what we do here. We throw our Candela in to try and flash them, but oops, it gets caught by an ADS. So if you want to burn all these ADSs, maybe you would have to throw 3 Candelas and then throw your 4th in and then go for the push on that. But what I told you, you can burn all 3 of these ADSs and flash this enemy with 1 Candela. And that is with this mechanic which everyone forgets that Ying has, and that is the fact that she can drill her gadget through walls and through floors. So there you go, we've just flashed the basement bomb site right now. And we're going to use that same sort of knowledge here. But what's going to happen is quite interesting, because the Candela is going to be on this side of the wall because it's drilling through. It's then going to flash this other side, which the ADS will catch some stuff, but there's not enough ADSs to catch every single flash. So Jaeger is still going to be blind. So we'll see what happens here. We're going to place this. We're going to drill it. You're going to see what happens is they're going to catch 3 of them, but there's still going to be more flashes coming out. And now Jaeger is going to be blind. So all those ADSs are burnt. Jaeger is blind, and this would be the same case if we were upstairs as well. So if we go up to the mezzanine, but if we're up here, you've got these ADSs, you've got Jaeger, we're gonna flash through the floor. do that. We'll go on the camera real quick. And what you'll see what's happening is it's going to flash. They're going to catch it, but flashes are still going to go off and blind the Jaeger. So don't make the mistake with Ying of just throwing your candelas into the site itself, because if you actually use the drilling capabilities of this gadget, you can have a much different outcome with this operator. Now, a mistake for Amaru can come down to the distance you are flying into a window from, and let me explain. As you can see, there is glass on these windows. Now, what you're going to notice is, I'm going to go as far back as possible until it doesn't let me attach anymore. The moment this grappling hook attaches to the window, the glass gets broken. So I'm going to attach to it. You see that the glass just broke there, and I'm going to fly straight in. Now, when glass is broken in this game, not only does it emit a noise, but it also makes all noise on the other side of the barricade clearer now that the glass is gone. So, if you are playing Amaru, and especially if you are flying into these high trafficked areas, you want to be able to get as close to the window as possible, so the time between the glass breaking and you flying in the barricade is as small as possible. Because if I stand over here and I deploy the grappling hook, the glass is going to break. Anyone in armory is going to hear that, and they're going to have a lot of time to react, because I've got to travel from this place all the way over here. However, if I come as close as possible to this window, I attach to it, glass broken, I'm already in. So as fast as possible and as quickly as possible, you want to be able to fly in those windows. I'll again give another example here. As you can see, there is glass on that window. I'm going to shoot it. Glass is going to break first. Anyone up here is going to get that sound cue that I'm flying in, and they're going to have more time to react. So keep that in mind when you're playing Amaru, that the glass will break on the initial grappling attach, and you want to minimize that distance to take your enemies by surprise. Right, here's a major mistake for Capitao. This is going to be especially when you're using his smoke. So let's say you're taking this site and you want to block off this doorway. If you do this and just block off the full doorway, this is wrong. The reason being, if you're planting here or your teammates are trying to stand here and do that, if an enemy just comes from study, they're just going to walk through it, and you're going to have a fast reaction time here, because this enemy is going to be emerging here. So you're going to have a really quick reaction time the moment he comes out of that smoke, whilst also dealing with other angles. Now, here's what you're actually meant to do. See, if you take the smoke and you shoot it to the top of a doorway, this is how you do it, because as you can see, if any enemy wants to make their way through here, even if they're crouched, they can't see because of the smoke, which is now dissipated. So here's what I mean by that. Let's place that again. And as you can see, we're going to be able to see anyone. We're going to see a full body standing here. But from their point of view, this is what it looks like. Our POV, clear as day. Their POV, oh, the smoke is dissipated. Let me do it again. But from their POV, this is what it looks like. Even if they crouch, they can't see anything, but you are going to have a full clear view of them. Make sure you do this when you play Capitao and stop making this mistake. So here's a big mistake I make on Fuze all the time. You see a reinforced hatch here. Typically you run hard breach for Fuze. That's probably the most common secondary gadget to bring. You think you would just hard breach his hatch. Well, that's actually not the best etiquette here, and I always find myself making this mistake. Now, the reason for this, especially if the site is in the basement here, there's typically going to be utility down here. We've got barbed wire here. We've got a bulletproof, a deployable shield. More barbed wire here. There's probably someone playing back here. There's probably a lot of utility on this doorway. So any other operator could, yes, just open that hatch, but we are Fuze. So especially if this is the hatch to the bomb site you are attacking, it might be just a good idea to fuse the hatch first. So it'll destroy all of the utility which is underneath this hatch. So you'll see, we'll get rid of the barb, we'll get rid of the shield and everything, and then we can just open this hatch as normal. This means that if we go for the push down the stairs, or we then go for a drop on this hatch, we have no utility to worry about. So maybe slow it down a little bit. Don't get ahead of yourself when it comes to open hatches. Fuse them first, so you know when you drop, you're going to have a lot of free space to play with without any utility. Okay, so this mistake for Thermite is when you're coming up against a wall which has a mute jammer on it. So obviously the mute jammer is going to disable the Thermite charge, and what you'll typically see people doing is they'll go on vertical rappel, they'll place their Thermite charge as high as possible. There is a little sweet spot, we can get it as high and low as possible. So there you go, that's a bit too low down, so put it a little bit higher. But you will see people doing this as a way to bypass the mute jammer, because the mute jammer's range is like a little curve like that rather than just going all the way down. And what they'll do is they'll make a breach like this, because the mute jammer is still up. you've bypassed it. And although you can still work with this breach, you can, you can see through there, you can see him, you can even jump in if you need to. It's actually an easier way to do this, which gives you a much nicer breach. So we have a double wall here, mute jammer's in the middle. I'll go show you. It's just the same as this wall we just breached. You got the mute jammer there. You don't have to go on repel as Thermite. Due to the mute jammer's range as like a little circle like that. So if you just come to either side of the breach and place your Thermite charge there, it actually bypasses that mute jammer. So as you can see, it's going to explode. And now we have a walkable breach. There's the mute jammer there. And this is a much more practical breach than this. I mean, just ask yourself the question, which one of these breaches would you rather walk through? I know which one I would rather walk through. So yeah, you don't have to go on vertical repel. You don't have to make this awkward breach. You can just put it to the side and it will be outside of its radius. Right, so here we are on Deimos. And a big important thing to get Deimos to work is that you need to scan the operators to then actually track them. So let's say we are attacking basement. I'm actually not sure where the bomb site is right now. I think it might be basement, but we drive our drone down and we try and find operators. The bomb site is not basement, but you get the gist of it. So I'm droning, I'm trying to put my drone in sight to find operators who I'm going to track. Now, although you are using this drone for intel, drones can be used in a lot of different ways in the round, so you don't want to necessarily waste it by droning into sight. Well, something which some people don't realize is you don't have to go and red ping an operator to get them marked by Deimos. You don't have to potentially waste your drone and make that mistake of giving your drone up. All you gotta do is if you find a defender gadget and ping it, you can now see at the top of the screen, Legion is now trackable. So what we're gonna do is, we're gonna send out a death marker on him. Again, Legion hasn't even been red pinged. We now know where he is thanks to this goo mine, and we can successfully track him without even having to red ping him and potentially waste our drone trying to find him. Next time you play Deimos, make sure you look for operator gadgets and don't necessarily just start going in red pinging everyone and potentially losing your drone. Okay, so a genuine mistake you can make with Ram right now, and I need you to trust me on this since Ram is one of my most played operators, and that is simply not using the LMG. Now, I love the R4C, I know it's one of the most popular guns in the game, but because of that, it has overshadowed the LMG. Now, the LMG is incredible on Ram, especially if you're using a one-time scope, because of the amount of verticality she is doing. This thing has 150 bullets. There's a very high possibility you don't even have to reload at any point in this round. And the reason why this is so good for verticality is 1, there's not really a lot of recoil on it. 2, because of that capacity of 150 bullets. And why that's important is because if you're vertical like this, and especially with Ram making these massive holes everywhere, which exposes a lot of the floor, and you can be exposed from a lot of angles, the last thing you want to have to do with the R4C in your hand is reload. You're either going to have to run to safety, which is going to waste time, or you're going to have to stand here, which is going to expose you. The LMG just simply eliminates that issue. You hardly ever have to reload. You can just keep pressing angles, take that person out. See, I've still got 90 bullets right now, and I've been shooting for so long. Still got 50 bullets. It says reload, but we still have more than the magazine of the R4C has at a given time. Like, for verticality, this gun is absolutely incredible. And I do think it was a bit of a shame that Ram was given the R4C because it heavily overshadows this LMG. But just trust me, the next time you play Ram, get a one-time scope, get the LMG, don't just get comfortable with the R4C. Use this and see how it goes. And the best thing is, if you end up not liking it, you can always go back to the R4C. But yeah, you are kind of limiting yourself with the R4C when it comes to this power which Ram has. So try the LMG and just trust me on that one. Okay, so a mistake you see a lot of people making with Grim is that they overpeak with his launcher. Now, one of the biggest downsides of Grim is the fact that you are exposed when you have your launcher out and you have no protection. So you want to try and minimize the risk as much as possible. So here's a Vigil, or let's say we get a call that Vigil or someone is playing over here. Maybe Vigil's not the best example since he can actually counter Grim, but pretend it's not Vigil, how about that? But let's say we get the call that someone is over here. It would be really risky for us to start trying to peek and place our gadget like this. Well, something which a lot of people seem to forget is that Grim's canisters can drop down from the ceiling. Now make sure you have it set to the first option. This one will cause it to bounce and then deploy, and this one will cause it to stick. So instead of me having to peek this Vigil or trying to block the flank over there in case someone is there, what I can do is I can come over here, shoot it to the ceiling, it will then drop down, and there we go, he is now being pinged. Now you of course have to make sure you're using the correct option as well, because if I'm playing as Grim, and let's say there's someone potentially down the stairs, if I'm on option 1 and I shoot this here, you know, it's gonna say, okay, there's no one here, I'm probably safe to push down. However, if I go to option 2, which gives it a little bounce, so we're gonna give it a little oomph around the corner to give us a little bit of distance, you're gonna see, oh wait, someone actually is there, is the Vigil. So make sure you're using the appropriate option for Grim, and make sure you're using them in a way which means you never have to peek the enemy. If the enemy's here, do the sticky one, drop it down. If the enemy's at the bottom of the staircase, don't get up close and personal, use the bounce option to swing around and find who they are. So ever since their little rework in Operation Collision Point, I actually think that Sens is an incredible operator now. They're not my favorite, but they're actually a good operator for once compared to what they used to be. And one of the major things which came in this is the Warden and Glaz and pretty much bulletproof cameras and Maestro. Nothing can see through these projectors anymore. No operator can see through them. So you now have the guarantee that when this is thrown down, absolutely no operator or no piece of utility can see through it. And another thing which came with this as well is that you have the option to turn these on and off, which leads us to the mistake you can make with Sens, and that is simply not really communicating with your teammates and turning them on and off without telling them. And this can mess them up either way. So let's say we have one placed over here and this barrier is up. Your teammate takes this ground and without warning, you drop this and expose your teammate without telling them. That can lead to a lot of frustration. But on the flip side, you can also have the same issue if it's down. Let's say your teammate's holding this angle and you turn these on, you're ruining that line of sight for your teammate, and now defenders may be able to cross over here without your teammate knowing. So one of the most important things you can do if you are playing Sens is just communication. And I know that sounds like an easy thing to say for absolutely every operator, but I feel like Sens especially needs that. And that's sort of the same case with smoke grenades as well, where just as much as it can help your team, it can also mess them up as well. Right, this one for Osa I've spoke about so much, but I'm never going to stop saying it until they fix it, honestly, because I don't think this should even be in the game. But basically, when you have your Osa shield out, if you're standing, like so, and you place your Osa shield, once the animation is finished, you will remain standing, which means your head is going to be exposed over the Osa shield. However, if you're crouched and you place your Osa shield, once the animation finishes, you'll remain crouched, perfectly protected by the shield. This means if you're ever placing an Osa shield while standing, you're going to be at a major disadvantage because your head's just going to pop back up and people are just going to pre-fire you the moment they see the animation finishing. Now, I will always keep drumming this one into people that you should always place your Osa shield whilst crouched for this reason, because I honestly don't think this should even be in the game. I think for consistency reasons, you should always remain crouched after you place it, even if you place it standing. So I'm placing it standing, and as you can see, when it ends, I'm going to be standing. I think I should be crouched for this. So please, please, every time you play Osa, just make sure you're crouched when you're placing your shield. If not, you're going to give the enemies a free headshot on you, and it's just going to lead to so much frustration. Alright, one of the biggest mistakes you can make as a Flores player is your positioning when you're actually using your Rotero drone. So let's say we wanted to send our drone around here. Maybe there's some head holes here we can open, or there's a shield on Janner. We want our Rotero drone to attack the top floor. Would you think here is probably a good position to use it? I mean, you are technically protected from stock. However, if someone does come to top square, they can just swing you and kill you whilst you're on your drone. But if you stand out over here as well, you're going to be exposed to stock. So I'm going to show you a really good location for this little area where you can use your Rotero drone. And I want you to apply this to more of the times you play Flores on different maps, because you do have to be more aware of your surroundings, especially when you're using it. So currently, my favorite place to use this is up here in this corner. Now, the reason for this is you are protected from stock window, and you are somewhat protected from someone down here. Now, don't get me wrong, they can actually run out and shoot you through here. I'm not saying you're invincible there. However, the likelihood that a defender is going to come up here and magically know you're up there, let alone come out and kill you, is a lot lower than them killing you in this corner. So the reason why I like to come up here is you have this little safe bit. I mean, you could do it on the roof as well, but then you have to jump over there. Whereas here, you can just come in this corner. As you can see, I'm up there. We can jump down our Rotero drone and drive it here. You got head holes here, janitor door here. We explode it, and we can just keep sending them in without having to worry from that window or getting swung from this doorway necessarily. We can do our thing, play Flores how we want to play Flores, and not making that mistake of just exposing ourselves and basically giving the enemy team a free kill when we're using our Rotero drone. Okay, so the main mistake you can make with Zero is not utilizing the guidelines, and I'm going to explain them for you right now if you don't know them. But basically, if you're looking right now, you can see that the two lines are flat. This means that your camera cannot be placed in this location, because if we shoot it, you know, that camera's not going to be usable. That camera's destroyed. Now, if the line at the bottom turns into a little downwards arrow, that means that yes, your camera can be shot in this location. So as you see, all around here, it's saying we can do it. Even up here, it's saying we can do it. So let's do that. And there you go. Our camera's all the way up here. But the game did tell us that, hey, your camera's cool to be shot here. That downwards arrow means that you can shoot this camera in this location and it'll be operational. Now, there's a line at the top as well. And what this line means is that not only can your camera stick to this location, but it can also drill through to the other side. Now, why this is especially cool in floors as well is it will show you where the metal beams are in the flooring. So let's place our camera here. As you can see, there's no metal beam there. There's a metal beam there. So it's sort of changing based on that, which is pretty cool. But what the game is telling us right now is that in this location, I can shoot the camera, but I can also drill through to the other side. But in this location, I can't do that, because if I shoot it here, yes, my camera can stick to this side, but I have no option to drill through like I did with the other one. So if you want to stop making mistakes with Zero, stop wasting cameras, maybe you're trying to drill through to the other side, but you're not really using these guidelines and you're doing what this camera done where it can't drill anymore. Stop making that mistake. Use these guidelines with this knowledge that you've just learned for it, and you can become a much better player on Zero. Okay, so a mistake you can make with Ace is breaching a wall. I'm not kidding. Let me explain this one. So let's pretend like you had the mirror window here. This had a hole. Someone was playing on elbow. You've pushed them back. Let's pretend that both these walls are currently reinforced. And over here, you have made a full open breach. Now, because we want to enter this breach, yes, we're going to place this one and we're going to let this one at the bottom open. So by the time that they explode, we as the attacking team can push into electrical, and our plan is to go for a plant in this corner, which is known as iconic. Now, some players, and I say some, probably the majority of players, and even I used to do this, if they came back and they would reinforce these walls, if we had control, maybe as Ace, we would try and open this wall so we can also rotate through here. But that's actually not really a good etiquette. Now let me explain. What we want to do is, we want to place an Ace charge here, but we want to destroy the second one. So in this circumstance, pretend this is reinforced of course, we now have head holes to use. Now what's so good about this is if our teammate or our team are going around here to plant in this corner, I, as the player in elbow, can still oppress this angle, and anyone playing in this general area who's going to try and swing on the guy planting. However, if I die in that position, if I take a gunfight, maybe I trade out, but if I die in this position, my team don't have to worry about a defender now trying to flank elbow. Because if my team's all positioned around here, they're not going to be able to watch this angle. They're going to be covering a diffuser over there. If a defender can sneak through and maybe try and take a gunfight and, you know, kill people and really start to do a retake, that can lead to us losing the round. However, because we only done head holes here, even though I'm dead, defenders cannot retake this area. And this is a way of playing Ace which has been seen quite a lot in Pro League recently, to make these head holes, but to make sure that if someone dies, you have that contingency of not losing that area, since you cannot enter a breach, which is this sized. Just a really cool way to play Ace, and yeah, hopefully you adopt this in your games. So I think a big mistake you can make with Iana is deploying your decoy quite close to where you actually want to drone, I guess would be the right term. So Iana's decoy is really good at mimicking noises of real operators. When she runs, she gives footstep noises, and a big thing she does is when she drops a hatch, for example, she makes the noise of when a standard operator drops. And especially if this is the bomb site, anyone playing over here, if they hear the noise of someone dropping a hatch, they're going to go crazy. I mean, you know what it's like when you're defending bottom floor bank. Now, you want to make sure that you can trick them as much as possible. If you're playing Iana and you're over here in admin, you're going to deploy your drone and you're going to give away that noise that you are doing a decoy right now, because the noise is going to travel down this hatch of the decoy deploying. I mean, it's a pretty obvious noise. It's very unique to Iana deploying her decoy. So then if someone hears a hatch drop and sees this, they're like, oh, it's just a decoy. So if you know which area you actually want to use your decoy at, let's say I want to drop that hatch to bait a hatch drop, to maybe even bait a nitro cell just based off the sound, I'll deploy my decoy over here where they won't hear it from this hatch. I'll then come over, go for the hatch drop, and then bait the sound with the operator dropping. They're not going to know as much that it's a decoy, especially if they're not seeing it, but if you are deploying it right beside this hatch or right beside this area, you know, maybe you're trying to drone someone who is on the stairs, when you're trying to bait them or something like that, and you use your decoy here, not only are they going to know, okay, a decoy is swinging me, they're going to know that you're pretty close as well. So if someone is flanking or they just run up the stairs, they know where you're going to be. So just make sure you're doing it from safety, more for where your operator is, sort of like the Flores tip, but also do it because your sound is also going to be muffled as well. And that's a major part of her. Okay, so the biggest mistake I could do as Callie right now is coming over here and shooting open this barricade with my sniper like this. And I'm going to explain why this is a mistake. So if we take out our drone and we look what's at the other side of this barricade, we'll see that there is a frost mat here as a deployable shield, and there's even a frost mat on this window. Now, this doesn't just apply to frost. There could be a Goyo canister over here in this corner, or even further in the corner because it can go quite deep. There could be a dread mine up here. There could be a bulletproof over here. There could be any utility on this door. And all I done by shooting that barricade was just open it up. I pierced the wall over here. Didn't really gain much from it. However, if I take Callie's gadget, which is the lance, we aim at that barricade again. We're going to shoot it at the barricade. I'll get on the drone. What you can see that just happens there is because the lance explodes on both sides of the surface it hits, whether that's a floor, whether that's a reinforced wall, whether that's the barricade, it blows up anything around it. Meaning if there is a Goyo canister here, Fenrir, if there's anything around the doorway, you're actually quite beneficial using Callie's gadget on the barricade so it then explodes and destroys anything around it. It even works for windows if there's a frost mat under it. I'll show you the example over here. We're going to have to come around the corner a little bit, but we'll reload our gadget. And what we're going to do is I'm going to shoot the lance at the barricade. I'll hop on the camera real quick. And as you can see, frost mat is now gone. Any other piece of utility that was on that window will also be destroyed. And we have just completely cleared both of those doorways and windows of any utility, which we can then use in the later game if we're going for a plan or we're going for an execute here. Dread mines, old goo mines, anything here is now gone. Now, when it comes to Nokk, I'm sure you all know that if you have your gadget active, it will only deplete if you're sprinting. And I'm not going to come here and say, oh, don't sprint if you're playing Nokk. I'm sure you all know that. But there are a bunch of other actions which also deplete your gadget, which I don't think a lot of people are aware of. One of these are vaulting. As you can see at the bottom right, my gadget is depleting, and not only this, I will appear as a glitch on the cameras, pretty much giving away my position. Another thing this will do this for as well is if I am shooting my gun. And as you can already see, I'm going to have to wait a little while for my gadget to reload here, but we'll activate it right now. As you see, I'm standing still, walking, crouching, gadget's perfectly fine. I'm going to take a few shots. It's going to start depleting, and it's going to start depleting fast. Even deploying your drone will also make you appear as a glitch on the camera. Pretty much any movement which isn't walking or crouch walking or crawling, I guess, as well, will make you appear as a glitch. So just keep this in mind. A lot of people seem to make the mistake of thinking that, oh, it's only sprinting. But if there's barbed wire here, if you punch the barb, you're going to deplete your gadget. You're going to appear as a glitch. If you're droning, if you're shooting, if you're vaulting, even if you just do a little vault like this, you're still going to appear as a glitch. So try and avoid all these different inputs, all these different movements as much as possible when you're playing Nokk. Just stick to walking. Standing up and down is fine. You don't have to worry about that. Same with proning and everything. Don't have to worry about that stuff. But anything else will make you deplete. Like, look at that. Even picking up the diffuser will make you deplete your gadget. So just keep this stuff in mind, because you will be appearing on cameras as a glitch. Okay, so the mistakes which you can make with Gridlock's track stingers are kind of the same mistakes you can make with barbed wire on defense. I mean, by all means, for a lack of better terms, it is kind of just an attacking version of barbed wire when you think of it, and that's not to downplay either barbed wire or Gridlock, they're both amazing, but it is quite a layman's way of putting it. Now, the best way I can say that people make mistakes with Gridlock would be if they place their track stingers here, for example. Now, I'm not going to come out here and say that this is terrible and this will never be useful. I mean, if anyone pushes up east, they're still going to have to hit these track stingers, don't get me wrong, or they're going to have to clear them. It's still great, and that's quite a good thing about Gridlock, is that there is a lot of leniency with her gadget, but I'm going to explain why I would class this as a mistake, because let's say you or your teammates are playing in 90, and this is your flank watch right here. If someone is flanking up east, or a defender's flanking up east, one thing here is they can tank enough of these track stingers to swing you like this, because they don't have to take a lot of damage. You don't have to tank these ones. And two, if they don't want to tank them, the amount of time between them shooting these, which exposes their position, and then being able to swing you is going to be very minimal, because they can just go shoot them and quickly swing. So the amount of time you have to react to the fact that gunshots have been heard on east over here and your track stingers have been shot, it's not going to give you enough time to then turn, and then you're getting flanked. So the reason why I think this is a mistake is because these are too high. Especially on staircases and stuff like that, you're going to want to place your track stingers quite low on the staircase. And again, apply this same knowledge to barbed wires when you're playing as a defender, because now a defender can't really sneak all the way up there by tanking all them. They're going to take a significant amount of damage. I mean, if they do that, fair play to them. They deserve the flank, or you could just double stack it just like you have done at the top. So like that. So the other way of them clearing this is they're going to have to shoot it, because even if they shoot a few here, there's a lot they can get to, or there's a lot they have to shoot before they can actually take a gunfight. So if a shot is heard down here and there's a bunch of track stingers at the bottom of the staircase, you and your team are going to have so much time to react to this audio cue than you would if the shot was here, because they just do that and then they're swinging you. So make sure you're placing the track stingers in a position which truly does compromise the defenders, and you have to put them in a decision of, do I either tank the damage, do I shoot them and give away my position, or do I flank elsewhere? Because if you're placing them this high up, you're kind of making the decision easy and giving them a chance. Even if they tank the damage, it's not going to be as much as it would be if they had to push a full staircase. Again, this doesn't even just go for staircases itself. Apply this same knowledge. If someone is going to swing this bit, instead of putting the track stingers here, you'd probably want to put them a bit further back, so there's more of them they have to push through before they get to a point where they can safely swing. So I think a huge mistake people make with Nomad is that they think she's only good for flank watching. I mean, don't get me wrong, she's amazing for flank watching. If I place an air jab over here, for example, I'm going to severely limit the capability of any defender who's trying to flank that double door. But I think a lot of people forget that she's also good at clearing people and area denial as well. So let's say someone is playing half wall, maybe we even have the breach open. A great thing you can do in Nomad is using your flashbang, flash the person. That also helps clear an ADS. Maybe not flash yourself like I done. And then you can shoot your air jab as well, push them out, and then you can just kill them like that. And the reason we do this with a flashbang as well is so they can't see the air jab, because obviously the air jab takes a few seconds to deploy. So we want them to be blind so the air jab has enough time to deploy and do its job. So you want to flash, maybe hide that from ourselves. He's flashed, air jab it. Air jab's going to hit the person, and even when they're in cover, you can come around and pre-fire them. That's gonna scare them enough. Even if they don't get pushed out of the cover, it's still going to immobilize them enough for you to get a swing on them, because the amount of recovery time is not insane. So just keep that in mind when you're playing Nomad. You don't always just have to be a flank watcher. This mistake's for all you novice Maverick players out there. Pretend this wall is reinforced and maybe you're synergizing with a Thermite, for example. So if you're just going for bandit batteries, maybe try and keep holes to the sides as much as possible, and typically try and angle yourself in to try and get those bandit batteries. If you have to keep moving along, do that. And you want as little holes as possible here, unless your plan is to Maverick trick, where you do have to make the holes all along the bottom and all along the top. But maybe your Thermite just wants to place a Thermite charge here, for example. Now, the reason why you kind of don't want to make a line all the way across the bottom, if that is your intention, is for one, Thermite will get shot in the feet. Now, of course, you can, as a Thermite, go on vertical repel and place that. But there's a reason, which is going to affect both that method and the method if you're placing it on the wall, is that defenders can easily nitro cell these holes. And if a nitro gets thrown right in the middle there, it will kill you if you're standing on this breach. And this is becoming a very, very popular way to counter Maverick nowadays. You're actually going to be surprised if you don't see a nitro cell get thrown at a Maverick hole. So especially if you're doing like a synergy of a Thermite, maybe try and give them not the most to work with, especially if your Thermite is going for it actually doesn't even matter. If your Thermite is on vert repel and they throw a nitro there, it will still hit them. So just keep that in mind when you're playing Maverick. You don't necessarily want to give the defenders a lot to work with when you're making holes, and that is why a lot of people do go for the Maverick trick, which is a line all the way across the top. Pretend that's a lot cleaner than it was, but per reinforcement, line at the top, line at the bottom, it turns into just to the soft wall again, and then you can open it with other methods or like shoot your way through and stuff like that. But just keep that in mind. Nitros are becoming very common to counter Maverick holes and kill anyone on the other side, so don't give them a lot to work with when you're playing Maverick. Now, I currently think one of the biggest mistakes you can do with Lion right now is not running the 417 DMR or the nades, and let me explain why. So let's say there is an Azami up here or something like that, or there is utilities such as a bulletproof camera, evil eye. Lion, of course, has the gadget which makes you stand still. What's beneficial if someone is playing behind a shield or a Kiba barrier is they have protection when they are standing still. Well, when Lion enters the frame as a solo operator here, and of course in a team aspect as well, if he pops his Lion scan and someone's behind a Kiba there, he can shred the Kiba barrier, because DMRs are insane at opening Kiba barriers and destroying them. He can shred that Kiba barrier and take the person by surprise whilst they're forced to stand still. Now, let's go up here and let's pretend like it isn't a Kiba barrier. Let's pretend like they're on a shield and someone's on a shield top red. Well, we pop the Lion scan, get ready, throw a nade at the shield. The person then has to run or be exposed by the nade, and of course, they'll be caught in the Lion scan. The 417 and the grenades are the most optimal parts of the loadout to coincide with his gadget. The Vector's great, the Shotgun's great, the other secondary gadgets are great, don't get me wrong, but the 417 is great at countering operators like Azami, as well as opening hatches as well. There you go, just open that hatch in con. So it's good for that. And the nades are great for pushing people out of locations, which is all going to synergize with that Lion scan. If you want to get the most out of Lion, run the 417 and run the nades. Right, okay, I need everyone to know this mistake for Finka because I see this all the time. Finka can revive herself and she can revive you. We all know this. But if a frost mat is in play, you cannot revive yourself. So even if your teammate is in this frost mat, if Finka does a stim, the teammate will not be revived. You cannot use Finka to pull anyone out of frost mats. However, if you do revive yourself and you have this limping effect, such as this, the Finka boost will override this. So do keep that in mind, and this will be applied to all of your teammates as well. But if your teammate jumps into a frost mat, not necessarily you as the Finka, but let's say my teammate who's Ash jumps in this window, she hits a frost mat, even if I Finka boost, she will not be revived. Please know this. I keep seeing Finka players trying to pick people up who are in frost mats. Just wait until they're outside of the frost mat, then you can Finka boost them and all will be good. But you will not get a free pickup. They either have to revive themselves or you have to go over and pull them out of the frost mat. Okay, so this one for Dokkaebi is quite a difficult decision, but you do see it all the time, and it's a very fair and understandable mistake you can make with Dokkaebi because it is very dependent on the situation you're in. And that is when you are in the position where you have hacked the defense's cameras. So let's say this camera up here by fireplace is accessible by both the attackers and the defenders. Now, due to this now being hacked, a lot of Dokkaebi players will simply just never shoot this camera or this camera over here, or basically any cameras for that fact, the moment they are hacked. I mean, you do have that trade-off of, although you're removing that camera for the defense, you're also removing that for your team, and this would be a pretty good flank camera to see if anyone is coming through fireplace. However, I have seen a lot of Dokkaebi players who, the moment they get access to cameras, will just simply never shoot a camera or a bulletproof or an evil eye, etc., due to the fact they have it hacked, but the defense are still using that to their advantage. So what my tip here is for you is just don't be afraid to destroy a camera even if you've already hacked it. Defenders still have control of it. If I'm attacking Ivy and my team are attacking Mezzanine, for example, and this camera's still up, yeah, we can use this as a flank camera, and if you have a teammate who is dead and is like dedicated on the camera, then yeah, it's probably good keeping it up. But remember, defenders can also see that feed as well, and if we're trying to push this double door and they're getting live comms from this camera that, oh, one's swinging now, one's close right of this door, blah, 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 you know, sometimes the trade-off is just get rid of the camera and just throw a drone down, so at least you know that only you and your team have that angle watched on a camera. Just don't be afraid to shoot cameras, even if they're hacked. But I know sometimes that's easier said than done, because you could potentially then be screwing over your team. But don't make the mistake of being too afraid to take that chance. Okay, a mistake I see people doing with Jackal as well is not really utilizing the correct colors. So as you see, these are red, and it means that these are the freshest footsteps. You can actually see that they're now turning yellow, which means they're dating out a little bit. And then you'll see these ones, which are the oldest, will start to turn green. Now, what does this mean for you? Well, if it's green, it means that the enemy is probably pretty far gone by now. However, now that Jaeger has just moved, we can see that the footprints are red, showing us that these are fresh prints. These yellow ones are saying, it's getting old, this person was here not too long ago. And then again, as the Jaeger moves, they are now red. And now we have blue, which are even older than green, and we'll see these green ones turn to blue as well. And these just tell you that these are really, really old footsteps. And as you can actually see, they're starting to disappear the older they get. Oh, they're all starting to disappear. Blue is the final stage before they start to go away. So if you see blue footsteps, it means that that person hasn't been there in a long time. If you see green, it's also not the most recent. Yellow, almost there, but red means that they're imminent and close, but you can still track them. However, something you need to notice there is that it only done one ping on him. That is because the footstep was blue. If we get some red footsteps, which means he's very close, look at the bottom left, we now have 4 pings, and this changes depending on the color. So if it's a red footstep, you'll get 4 pings. If it's a yellow footstep, you'll get 3 pings. If it's a green footstep, you'll get 2 pings. And if it's a blue footstep, you'll get 1 ping. Just don't make the mistake for always going for blue footprints. Not saying that isn't useful, because you're still going to get 1 ping off on the enemy, but if you see a red one, go for that, because it means they're close and you're going to get 4 pings on them. Right, a mistake with Hibana right now would be using 4 of your Cairo pellets to open up this hatch. And I'm serious, let me explain this. So it does take 4 Kairos to open a hatch, we all know this, but they don't all have to be at the same time. Especially with this hatch in Kitchen on Clubhouse, it is very common to impact trick. So you make some holes here and you throw some impact grenades over here or over here, and it will usually destroy any hard breach which is on this hatch. Now, one defender has 2 sets of hard breach charges. If you were to do a set of 4 and they impact trick it, and another set of 4 and they impact trick it, by the time you open this hatch, that will be 12 Cairo pellets used on one hatch. That's a bit of a waste. So if you use this strat and do 2 at a time, so we're going to do 2, and then you start detonating it, if they impact trick this set, yeah, okay, you've lost 2, but they're also down to 1 impact nade. So let's say that they impact tricked that and that wasn't successful, and we shot another 2. Again, they destroy that one as well. But in total, that is only 4 Kairos being lost from our part, but they have lost both of their impact nades. Then you can either go for the 4, or if you manage to get 2 off like I did, you can finish it off with the final 2 as well. You just don't want to use all of your Kairos at once if they are impact tricking or using other methods to get rid of your pellets. You just got to sort of build it up over time to wear down their utility, so you then have an opportunity to finish the hatch off. Just don't make the mistake of using it all at once if they are in a position of tricking. Okay, this mistake for Blackbeard stems from when you're on Repel, and I'm probably going to have to go into the replay mode to show you this, but a lot of people, since Blackbeard does have a shield out on Repel, will kind of go like this and stand in the middle of the window and take gunfights. I mean, why wouldn't you? You're protected with this shield in front of you. Well, that isn't actually necessarily the case with Blackbeard. Because his shield is adaptable and it changes, it actually goes into a smaller state when he is on the window. So once his window's open, I'm going to pause it. And as you can see, a lot of his body is actually still exposed when he is doing this, because the shield goes in this collapsed state. So even if you're playing on a window, you kind of want to stay to the edges of the window so your lower torso and your feet and your legs aren't exposed, because although yes, he does have some protection here, you can still shoot the lower half of his body. Even when that shield part is up protecting his head, his body is still exposed. So Just keep that in mind that his shield does change state when he is on repel. So although from your POV you may think, oh yeah, well I've got a shield, I should be fine. Just stick to the edges of the windows and don't make that mistake of exposing your full body. Okay, so this mistake is for Buck, and I think due to the fact that it's sort of classed as a gadget and not necessarily a shotgun, I think a lot of people forget that the properties of his skeleton key is kind of the same properties which shotguns share. So what I mean by this is the difference between ADSing and hip firing. So if I was to hip fire on this wall like this, it would do a bit of a wider spread. However, if I was to ADS on this wall, it'd be a bit more of a tighter spread. As you can see, tighter spread there, bigger ADS here. We'll do an on-ADS with a big spread, and then like we'll come around here and we'll do a bit of the tighter spread. Sometimes, you know, there is clearly a difference there, but still enough for you to rotate through. But why this is good and why I believe this is a mistake people make is especially when they are like playing Buck from quite high positions. Because if you're trying to reach that, you know, sometimes that's not going to reach. But if you do that little tighter spread, you can sort of tear up the floor a little bit easier there because the bullets are going to be in a bit more of a formation. And of course, if you're taking a gunfight, I did not mean to throw a flashbang there. If you're taking a gunfight, you of course want to use the ADS because that means more bullets are going to actually hit the enemy itself. But of course, if you want to go for that big destruction, you are pretty much better using the hip fire to get that big hole. But then if you want to go for the more tighter shots, like that, you know, get smaller holes like that rather than like a big hole, you want to do the ADS. Just keep that in mind that they actually do make the bullets act a wee bit different, because I think a lot of people seem to forget that and make that mistake. A pretty simple mistake you can make with Sledge is the level in which you're actually swinging your sledgehammer. This sort of knowledge can also be applied to hot breach charges and secondary hard breach charges when you're in breaches as well, because you want to make it as easy as possible to enter the wall. And what I mean by that is you don't want to make yourself vault. So if I come up to a wall and I hit that, if I want to rotate here, I have to make myself vault, which locks me in an animation. And I'm also giving away a sound cue of when I jump over to anyone who's maybe in construction or something like that. So if I actually want to make it a bit more viable, just make the hole a bit smaller so you can crouch through. You don't have to get off your ADS. You don't have to, you know, go into a locked animation or anything. You can just silently crouch through this hole you made and use it. You don't want to have vaultable holes all over the place. I mean, unless you do, I mean, by all means do it. But for your own efficiency, you want to make them that you don't have to vault through. It may be good if you're making one like behind you and you make it like a vaultable one, because then if an enemy is flanking, they're forced to vault. But that, of course, just depends on the circumstance you're in. So yeah, just make sure you're making your holes as Sledge at a level which doesn't require you to vault, because vaulting will put you at a disadvantage if you are having to climb over and take a gunfight like that, since you're locked in an animation. Okay, so a mistake I see people making with Thatcher is after their initial EMP, which will disable these bandit charges, they keep throwing it. That's not what you should do. Once you've disabled that set of EMPs, your teammates should then go for a hard breach. Now, if this hard breach is a failure, you then dedicate your next EMP to the next attempt of disabling the bandit charges and the next attempt of a hard breach. Especially if bandit is tricking, just lobbing EMP after EMP like this and then throwing another one isn't going to do anything. That isn't going to stop a trick. That isn't going to make anything better. You're just wasting EMPs, because if he tricks this wall, like he probably will again, then you've just lost the hard breach charge again and you're out of EMPs. Just dedicate one EMP to one hard breach attempt. I know this gets especially even harder when you have to juggle it against a Tuberal, which then you will maybe have to relay the timer of the bandit charges. But yeah, don't just start throwing all your EMPs at once. I see a lot of low-level Thatcher players doing that. Okay, this one is going to be for Ashe, and although I don't always recommend doing the Ashe rushing playstyle, a tip I do want to give you here is if you are going to blow up a barricade and go for a rush, maybe try and do it at the bottom in case there is any barbed wire there, for example. So let's say if I'm going to rush here, instead of me shooting the barricade there could be a dread mine. I know I'm inside the building right now, but this is theoretical. There could be a dread mine, there could be a goo mine or something, or anything at the bottom. So if I shoot it at the bottom and then go for the rush, it will destroy like a cap can trap which is there, or barbed wire there. Compared to the fact if you were to, you know, let's say we're rushing this door and I shoot it up here, it's actually not going to destroy that utility which is down there. So make sure you are just sort of aiming it at foot level to destroy any utility which might be around there, just to make your rushing attempt through that door a bit more successful. Although I don't always recommend rushing in general. I think you should save Ash's gadget, especially since it's so useful at countering operators such as Mirror. Okay, so I'm going to group Monty and Blitz together for this one because I feel like this is applied to both of them and is a huge mistake I have been making for a long time. So here you have Blitz, and again, think of Monty in the same state right now. Now, if Blitz is coming at me like this, as you can see, I can see his feet. So if you're playing as the Blitz or Monty and you look as far as you can to the ground, there's absolutely no way anyone can see your feet. So let me move it back up to a level which people may be pushing you at, like this. There you can see I can take some shots on his feet there. So if you're wanting to gain ground, look to the ground whilst you're moving, because there you go, your feet is now going to be protected. Again, this is the exact same case for Monty, and I guess I should mention the same case for Blitz, sorry, not Blitz, Fuze and Blackbeard as well, but it's a really insane tip which will just make you a much better shield player. Like, if you ever played these shield ops and someone's been walking at you and you've been like, oh, how'd they kill me? How'd they get me? It's because of your feet. So make sure you're looking as far down as possible. You can still give yourself some vision by like looking up and stuff like that, but give yourself as much chance as possible because you're then going to have the feet blocked. But then, of course, you do have to worry about your head being exposed as well. And I guess I should do like a little editor's note here as well. This part of the head can actually kill him. You have to aim a lot lower down. The helmet is not the hitbox, the head itself is, and the helmet does extend above his head. So even if he got shot in the helmet here, it wouldn't do anything. So just keep this in mind. You want a nice little balance of both, but just watch you don't have your shield too high up, because as you can see, your feet will be exposed. This mistake is for Twitch, and that is not allowing her Twitch drone to recharge and kind of just wasting it. So what I mean by this is, by default, Twitch has 3 zaps. We're going to use one there on this camera, we're going to use one on this camera, and then we'll swing around to the shower side to use our Twitch drone on this camera. Now, the moment you're done with these 3 zaps, immediately try and hide your Twitch drone or get it to safety, and then if you want to continue it, do your other Twitch drone for now. The reason for this Twitch drone is going to be in a state of recharge, as you can see at the bottom right. If you're not aware, Twitch drones have an unlimited amount of zaps. So you don't just want to discard this Twitch drone or turn it into a normal drone the moment it's done with that. You want to go put it away, let it recharge, and do your next load with your second Twitch drone. If you've done that with that, and you know your zaps have ran out, hide that one as well, and then get on with the round. That means within the next like 30 seconds or something like that, once you've gained control, you can go back on both of these Twitch drones, and both of them will have their charges back. If you want to drone stuff, use your normal drone. Don't use your Twitch drone over this drone if you just want to get some intel. Because you can take this ground, find that someone's there, you know, take them out, you have control, and then boom, you still have more Twitch drones with 4 or 6 zaps available to then push to the bomb site, clear utility as well. So don't make the mistake of just turning them into normal recon drones the moment you use the first 3 zaps. I'd say very simply, one of the biggest mistakes you can make for IQ right now is just not running a suppressor on her pistol. The pistol is the only weapon you're going to have access to when you're using her main gadget, so you want it to be as stealthy as possible. Now, one of the best things about a suppressor is when you're shooting, there are no lines on the enemy screen, so they don't know where the bullets are coming from. So if you're trying to destroy utility quite sneakily as well, stick the suppressor on and they won't know which direction you are shooting from. As you can see, there is a lot of gadgets around here, currently being scanned by the default camera, which a bit ironic if I'm IQ if I don't say so myself. But there we go, we have a vault camera over here. If we just do this, we get rid of the vault camera, they don't know where that shot came from. They don't know if I'm in con door, or they don't know if I'm on gym window. And it's being stealthy. We know that someone's on their phone right now. We know they just got off, and we wanted to take out as much utility as possible without them knowing where we are, or we don't want to be predictable either. So there's a mute jammer there. I don't know if we can get it from this angle. There we go. Mute jammer is gone. So just make sure you're running the suppressor on IQ, because you want to be as stealthy as possible, and there's no downside to using it, but there is a downside to not running it. So yeah, bring the suppressor and bring the nades so you know which gadgets you can nade as well. So next up we have Striker, and I think this is a very hard operator to mess up, but I definitely think there is a mistake that people are making with this operator, and I've noticed this with the general player base, and that is that they have kind of stagnated with the recruits loadouts, both for attack and for defense. So for Striker, for example, I feel like a lot of people only use Striker as a hard breacher. That is since the EMP and the secondary hard breach combo is so unique and it allows you to be a self-sufficient hard breacher, and this was also one of the big selling points of these operators when they were revealed back in Operation New Blood. But I also want to showcase the fact that you don't just have to use Striker as a hard breacher. They're very good for other playstyles as well, and a big playstyle which I think more people need to adapt with Striker is when it comes to area denial and position clearing. I'm going to give you this example of bottom floor chalet right now, because a lot of the time you'll see a warden with a rotate into sight. So there'll be a rotate, pretend it's bigger. They'll have like a shield here, and warden will be playing with a shotgun, and there'll be a bunch of ADSs protecting him. Usually, you try and clear it from outside this doorway by throwing your utility in. Now, of course, if you throw flashbangs at a warden, it's not really going to do much. But I want to show you how Striker can just counter all these ADSs, and that is by running either flashing grenades or smoking flashes, any throwable projectile, but grenades is the best, and you want to be using your grenades last, because I'm going to show you why. So let's say where Jaeger is right now, there's a shield. We've got 3 ADSs, so we go 1 flashbang, 2 flashbang, 1 grenade, and finally, our final grenade, which is going to kill him and take out that position. And I'm not saying that using the hard breach charge in the EMP is a bad thing, but just don't stagnate on this operator. There's a lot you can actually do with Striker. And finally, we have Glaz. And I think the biggest mistake people make as Glaz is they treat him as a sniper, which I know sounds stupid, and his entire operator video was talking about him being a sniper, but we've evolved from that stage. Kali's the sniper in this game. Glaz is more of this marksman who can get aggressive, and I think people make the mistake of playing too passive on Glaz. Like, his rifle does 70 something damage. This thing is absolutely insane. I think too many people are relying on playing back and also playing off the smoke. I don't even use smoke on Glaz anymore. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing if you do, but just don't really hold back with Glaz. The gun's insane. You're getting that bit of peeker advantage because you're getting to see their yellow outline, and it leads to an overall really strong marksman. Don't always feel that you have to be sitting at the back of the map. He's great at holding angles close. He's great at taking gunfights. Just don't treat Glaz the same way you would play Kali. She's the true sniping operator. And so everyone, that was one mistake / tip for every single attacker in Rainbow Six Siege as of Year 10 Season 1. Of course, I made a similar video to this last year, so I tried my best to give new tips and new mistakes in this one, because I didn't just want to repeat the same video. So be sure to let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Drop a like on this video if you did enjoy. Subscribe if you're new. Catch you all later. I love you all. Stay safe. Peace.